what's up? Welcome to another episode of the Goodcast Show. So somewhere between the year 1990 and 1991, a young man was persuaded by a university friend to get on the stage at an old Subang Airport Hotel lobby lounge to tell some funny stories. It was at this lounge where a member of the audience saw Harith and invited him to another function to perform on stage. One thing led to another, and that moment will forever be known as the start of what we have come to know and love today, which is the Malaysian stand-up comedy scene. From performing globally to being crowned Laugh Factory's funniest person in the world in 2016, curating his own stand-up festivals, he is today and forever will be known as the Godfather of Malaysian stand-up comedy. His Netflix special put Malaysia on the map and has since paved the way for many other local Malaysian comics finding their way onto the platform. Among all his accolades, to me, he will always be Abah from Sepit, or the man who made me laugh hysterically when he compared CSI Miami with CSI Malaysia. It's truly an honor to host a living legend in the flesh, the man who brings smiles to millions, Harith Iskander bin Musa. Thank you, sir, and welcome to the show.
Oh, so official. Actually, remind me to talk about CSI.
Yeah.
Remind me to talk about Sepit. One thing, you said it started the stand-up comedy scene in 1991. To be honest, there was no stand-up comedy scene. And from 1991 all the way to mid-2000s, I was doing it alone. So there was no scene. There was just one idiot going out there. In fact, people didn't even know. The majority of people who watched it, number one, was all corporate shows.
Okay.
Occasionally, I performed at the Actors Studio in Dataran Merdeka and Bangsa Shopping Centre. But there was no scene because there was nobody else doing it.
Okay.
A scene can only happen when there's others. There was the Instant Cafe Theatre.
Yes,
Are you old enough to remember them?
Yeah.
So they were a political satire-based group. And I joined them for a while. And Jid Murad at the time would do stand-up comedy but in character as Rene Choi. So there was not really a scene. The scene, I think, only started in mid-2000s, 2005. When the young fellas of those days, including names like Andrew Neto and Kevin J, that was when broadband became available, YouTube. And then these young kids, well, young at the time, were watching Def Jam comedy and stuff like that. Yeah. Then they started putting on their own shows somewhere. And then they heard about this old fella who's been doing it for a while, and they invited me to come and watch them. And so that's when I would say the scene began. Okay. Before that, it was me, myself, and I. Okay. A bit like masturbation, but can't talk. No one can say. Huh?
You can. This is a podcast. Go ahead. No holds barred. Now, before we get to the interview, and I have this very selfish question that I want to ask you. One person whom I would have loved to bring on this podcast, of course I can't now, she's passed, is the late Yasmin Ahmad.
Yes.
And you were in Sepit. And that movie, to me, is one of the best movies I've ever seen. It's a beautiful movie, and your character was just so funny, and it was perfect. Like, it was a perfect movie. What was it like working with her?
Wow, that's a whole podcast on its own.
Yeah.
In fact, I would encourage you to do that, to talk to people who worked with her. Yasmin Ahmad was, I don't even know the correct word for it, an enigma. She was, in my personal experience, a gem, and basically a human being who would affect everyone. Maybe most people know or don't know that at the time she was a creative director in an advertising agency, Leo Burnett, which, by the way, I worked with Leo Burnett from 1989, 1990, 1991, way before Yasmin Ahmad's time.
Oh,
anyway, cut to the future. So Yasmin Ahmad actually started what is now, it's become a bit of a cliche, is those festival ads, Hari Raya, Deepavali, Chinese New Year, which had nothing to do with the product, i.e. Petronas, but everything to do with emotion and feeling. Yes. And those ads, people now look forward to it.
Yes.
And everyone has jumped on the bandwagon and copied it. So she started that trend. And if you can imagine an advertising agency, in those days, your product is this. And then the client would say, I want to see the product. I want to talk about the product. You have to talk about it. So Yasmin somehow convinced Petronas to have a Petronas Hari Raya commercial which had nothing to do with Petronas. Just emotions, family, going back to Kampung, and subsequent to that, my favorite one is the Deepavali one where those machas are in the street. 2000. That's hilarious.
There's also one of the Chinese boy with that Malay girl.
Oh my God. Yeah. You see that? Look, if you've not seen it, and I don't know why you've not seen it, little Chinese boy talking about his girlfriend. Umi Kazira, I think it was. And then, she shows up and you look at it, and as a filmmaker myself, I'm like, how the hell because it's obviously not scripted.
Yeah.
But that was Yasmin's brilliance. So going back to Sepet, my personal experience. Number one, Yasmin had lengthy rehearsals. I think we rehearsed for a couple of months at a home studio somewhere. And the reason for that was she just wanted the cast to get together and really connect with each other, such that when you reach to the day of shooting, you weren't thinking of lines, you weren't thinking of, do I know this person? You were already a family. And so myself and the other actors included, Sepet was Aida Narina, who played my wife, and Sharif Amani played my daughter. We were already a family. So she used those moments, that lengthy rehearsal time, just to get to know and have laughs and become a family. And then when it came to shooting, she was as uncommercial as anyone else. So she would just plant the camera there, and then the actors go do it, go. You just go and do it. So we would just all done in rehearsals already, worked it all out. So if you watch her films, it may seem a bit draggy because it's just a single camera. She very rarely went for close-ups and traditional cutaways. So that was her filmic style in terms of the movies. But what's my greatest memory of the film like Sepet, I mean, to this day, everyone speaks about it, asks about it. And I'll just give you a little anecdote as I remember it. So she shot Sepet, and as you know, all Malaysian films have to go to Lembaga Penapisan Film Negara, whatever, the censorship board. And apparently, so the censorship board, if you don't know, is made up of, I think 4 to 6 individuals who are all past, retired government servants from the army, from LLN, from JKR or whatever. I may be wrong here, but just retired servants. So they get given this job of menapis, editing films or deciding what is to be edited.
They don't come from the film in background.
As far as I know, as told to me, they're not. They're when you retire from JKR or something, they just give you so once a month you show up and you decide what. What I know is, and I may be wrong here, they're given guidelines. No nudity, sex. But as you know, sometimes guidelines, like especially Malaysian guidelines, are very broad and basic. So nothing, don't offend a race. Now, what does that mean? Who decides what is offensive and who is offended? So as I remember it, Yasmin told the story. She submits the film. It comes back with 9 cuts, meaning you have to cut these 9 bits, or not, the film won't be released. So then she went for the appeal process, where if I remember correctly, she sat there in front of these individuals, and they went through the 9 cuts. Or you have to cut this, and this, and this, and this, and this. Now, if you remember Sepet, do you remember the scene where Adibano is at the top of the stairs? In front of her is Aida Narina, the mother, and then in front of her is Sharifah Amani, the daughter. And Adibano is combing the mother's hair. The mother is combing the daughter's hair. Then my character waddles in, and then I look at them, and I go to the front, and I sit down in front of Sharifah Amani, because imagine it's down the stairs, and I give her a brush, and she begins to comb my hair. See, you're laughing already. There's no dialogue. In fact, I don't even remember there's music. It's just this sweet moment.
Yeah. Beautiful. Yeah.
They wanted to cut that scene.
Why?
There. Yeah, your face there, exactly. When she tells the story, all of us are like, why? So the reason given to her was, this act of combing the hair was an act done in the kampongs back in the day to find lice.
Okay.
So it had a practical reason. So for some reason, didn't want to portray Malays in that old-fashioned, traditional way of finding lice. I know exactly.
Oh, okay.
So when we hear this, and there was a lot of other cuts, including the scene where I'm waltzing with my wife, Aida Narina, and my sarong drops off.
Okay.
And I want to cut that. Why? This and that. Various other scenes. And as I remember Yasmin telling me the story, that from talking about the scenes itself, the conversation moved to how could you, as a Malay Muslim woman, portray Malay Muslims as this? So it veered into more personal. How could you? How could you kind of thing? At which point, if I remember correctly, she says she picked up her things and she said, "Thank you very much. My parents brought me up to believe that only God judges me, only Allah judges me. I will not sit here and be judged by fellow human beings." And she walked up. If you don't want my movie, then I won't show it here. And she walked out. And so the film Sepet premiered in Singapore. Singapore heard about it. They were like, "Oh yeah, we want it," and they premiered it there. And if I'm not wrong, and Linus, one of the people involved in the productions, might be able to confirm this. The education Minister of Communication at the time, I can't remember who it was, found this out, or some minister found out and was like, "What? No. Separate has to be shown here." And he got the board to overrule. He overruled the board, except for one scene, I think, where the sarong drops, and said, "No, show it as it is." And that's why the film then came to Malaysia and had a screening in Malaysia. But this is just an indicative of a lot of the issues where typical Malaysians, we don't appreciate something until they go overseas. Oh, that's suddenly Ronnie Cheng is Malaysian, no, and Michelle Yeoh is Malaysian, and Malaysia. Who?
James Wan.
James Wan is Malaysia. Yeah. But if they develop their craft here,
there's no hope.
There'll be the cannot do this, cannot do that, cannot do that. But once you go there, oh yeah, it's Malaysian. Born here, Malaysian boy.
Yeah.
So can you imagine? So Yasmin was just that type of person. She's like, she had the ability to call anyone, "Oi, Pukimak," but with complete love. So there was no one took it. "Hey, Pukimak, come sit down here. Come makan." And she would talk to Tan Sris and drivers the same way. She would walk around the Leo Burnett office. Now, Leo Burnett is a high-flying, Jing Zheng, all, top clients and all. She'd walk around in a baju kurung, shoeless, and, laughing and pointing and getting very angry at people for different reasons and laughing with them at the same time. So she was just that person who had and I didn't know her that well, but in my experience with her, she just had an ability to bring people together. And I can tell you that everyone who worked on Sepet behind the scenes were all the commercial boys. Now, people, if you work in commercials, you're the top level, you're the highest paid, in production. And they all come in with all her films like, "We will take minimum. You make the money for us in commercials, but we're going to take away these 14 days or 20 days to work with you on minimum, just to be around here and all." So that's why the films, in my opinion, all the films just really break every mold.
Yeah, they do.
The opening of I forget the title. It's not Gubra. I think it is Gubra. It's a mosque, and then the imam who is starting the prayers leaves the mosque and then comes across a stray dog, and pets the dog and gives him some food.
That's Molaf, right?
Not Molaf. Yes,
Oh,
I think it's Gubra. And then, cut. Tak boleh. But in Yasmin's defense, she's like, this story is real. It happened in Indonesia, and it's the story. So all her characters, like the character of the father and the mother in Sepet, where they make dry fun of each other and dance in sarongs and waltz. They said, in her earlier film, before Sepet, she did a TV drama where an elderly couple, the parents, are showering together, and the daughter walks by, and the daughter's like, "Mom, Dad." And old people don't do that. And she was like, "No, my parents do." So the parents in the movie were based on her parents, and that's how they acted. And so she goes, "You're telling me old people don't do that?" No, my parents do. So once again, it's all in the eyes of the beholder. Who decides what is allowed and what is not allowed based on social norms? Not your social norm, but my social norm. Right. So it's that in a nutshell. That's why Yasmin was such a precious person, because she just told authentic stories, and she laid it out there. And if you didn't like it, someone else will. Do you know? this is back in the day of the VCDs and all, where
Oh my
Malaysia, we are champion at pirating VCDs.
Yes, yeah.
Do you know that they released Star Wars? I remember the Phantom Menace, the first one. I'm original Star Wars, Episode 4, Episode 5, Episode
Same
6.
here, man.
20 years
Oh, no,
later,
no,
they
yeah.
released Phantom Menace. It was released in New York at midnight. I remember this distinctly. And, there was so much
Yeah, yeah.
hype behind keeping it secrecy. Literally, if you plus the change of hours, 6 hours later, I was at a stall in Ampang. And brother, VCD, balu punya Phantom Menace. And I was like, wow, Malaysia boleh.
Malaysia boleh,
Someone
yeah, yeah.
had, no, it wasn't internet in those days. Someone had, couldn't be in 6 hours, maybe 24 plus 6. Someone had been in the theater, shooting it, flown it over, printed it out.
Yeah, yeah.
And there I was in the stall picking up a Phantom Menace for 8 ringgit. You know what I mean?
Oh, yes, I remember
So
that. Yeah.
when Sepet came out, then there was a lot of piracy. People were on VCD. I remember someone asked Yasmin, "Hey, you're not fighting this piracy. Sepet is people are watching." She was like, "More people will watch it. If they don't want to go to the cinema, they don't want to pay. At least they're watching it." So she was just like,
You couldn't stop it at that time.
no, couldn't stop. She was like, "I want more people to watch it. If they choose not to go to the cinema, I'm not doing it for the money. I'm doing it for you to watch it and feel something about it and hopefully love the movie." And that was her attitude. Watch
No,
it.
the thing is, I remember this scene from Wallaf where there is a scene where you have a Chinese boy and a Muslim girl sitting in a car, and they are discussing God, right? And that's the thing about Yasmin that I loved was that the themes were very there were. I mean, because she is a very philosophical person. I don't know her, but I've seen her speak in like TEDx and all the way she speaks, right? Do you think Malaysian cinema will ever go back to that? Or is that a bygone era that we just can only talk about?
No, here's the thing. Here's my opinion. When I meet young filmmakers or students or whatever, I want to make a film, and this I'm scared about this. In my opinion, and you should know this by now, this is the age of the internet. Don't think I need to make a film for Malaysia. Just make a good film. Because the world can see it on YouTube. Just make a good film. People always say, "Oh, Malaysian, you must support Malaysian film. Must go and support Malaysian film. Support Malaysian film." I have a very different opinion. I'm not going to support Malaysian film for the fact of it's a Malaysian film. I'm going to support a good film.
Yeah.
Abang. Did you ever see Abang?
Abang Ade.
Abang Ade. Abang
Yeah.
Ade.
No, I have not seen it, but I heard it's doing well.
Oh my God. Good film. Like this film can sit anywhere on the pantheon of great films from Italy, from US, from Cuba, from Brazil. Great film. So I will support that film and I'll talk about it on this podcast. I'm not just going to support a film just because it's Malaysian. Because not that I'm not patriotic, but I'm like, I can see that the filmmaker did not think to himself, I'm going to make a good Malaysian film. He's just like, I'm going to make a good film. And I happen to be Malaysian and I happen to shoot in Malaysia. And it's kind of a Malaysian story, but there's nothing about it that screams Malaysia. There's a scene in the immigration with a lady in a tudung, and then you go, okay, that's obviously Malaysia. The scenery is all like, in a Puchong, Kuala just this old dilapidated 2-3-story shop houses, which could be in any poor urban scenario anywhere in Asia. I think there's one shot that you see in the distance, KL Tower, but there's no sweeping KLCC shot. We're in Malaysia, and people are walking, and we got the Malay, Chinese, Indian, and No, they just make a good film. So, will we ever go back? I say don't look back. Don't look. Can we do this? Can we not do this? Just make it. And I know there's constraints around budget and all. Just write a good story, make a good film. Some of the best films come out of countries that are so highly regulated and censored. In Iranian films, and I think I saw a small short Afghan short film. I'm no longer a film aficionado as I used to be, but yeah, we're all comedy. We are restricted by what you can and cannot say, The skill is how can you say these things without people realizing you just went outside the box. And that's the way I look at things.
I mean, I would sort of put you in the same league as people like Robin Williams, who are actors as well as comedians. We know him for two things. Are you more of an actor or are you more of a comic?
I hate acting.
You hate acting?
Number one, I don't think I'm a good actor. But number two, acting is 90% waiting. You come to the set, you wait, they set up lights, set, and then you show up and you do your bit. So I actually hate the waiting process.
Okay.
I don't enjoy acting, but I will act. And people say, hey, but you acted. Yeah, I will act for projects I like and for friends. Yeah, Yasmin, Aflin Shauki, Hans Isaac. So that's why I acted. I did a lot of theatre with Joe Hashim and Farida Marikan because, what a great experience to do theatre with these people that I admire and I respect.
Definitely.
So I don't consider myself an actor at all because I know people who are great actors. And I'm like, oh, no way could I reach that. No way could I do that. Aida Narina, to name one, and Sharifa Amani as well. Just like, okay, I cannot do that. I don't mind acting with you, but I cannot do that.
I spoke to Jo Kukadas and a few months ago, and she brought up this point that she said that local films are appreciated more outside. I wouldn't say all of them, but there are many local filmmakers who have their movies win awards outside. Even like you talk about Abang Ade. I think he did about 2.2 million in Taiwan. I think in terms of
just recently, if I'm not mistaken, the actor who is actually Taiwanese himself won the creme de la creme of Asian Academy Awards, which I think is Golden Horse or Golden something. Golden Dragon. Like it is recognized.
And there's another one. I forgot the name. Tiger Stripes. That was the first Southeast Asian movie. It was a Malaysian movie, but in all this, and of course that had issues about censorship as well, which the filmmaker was very against. But when I looked at the top 10 grossing films in Malaysia, they all have the same theme. It's all police gangster movies or Upin and Ipin kids movies, which is fine. I guess that's the taste. But my question is, when I compare the two, why do you think Malaysian movies are not that well, these type of movies are not well celebrated here as opposed to outside?
Well, to point out something earlier, Hollywood is the same. Top 10 will be the Avengers, Spider-Mans, Marvels, yada, yada, yada. That's just because of now where you can watch everything on your device, films in cinemas need to be bigger to bring someone out, to have them pay not even 10 ringgit nowadays. I just went to watch Wicked yesterday, and it was, the tickets are very expensive. So films have got to be bombastic that you cannot watch it on your device. And that's why those films become box office. What's your second question?
No,
why is it not
why aren't Malaysians appreciative of our own cinema?
I think in general, number one, we're a very small population. Number two, within the population, we are self-divided across language barriers. Either the Malay speakers, the Chinese Mandarin speakers, or those who speak English but maybe can speak Mandarin or Malay as well. So that's number one. You've got the barrier language. Number two, honestly, from schooling days, culturally, our films, poetry, music celebrated, not in sekolah kebangsaan. Your maths, sejarah, ilmu hisab, geography, and agama and English, Bahasa Malaysia, etc., etc., etc. So, at what point does society culturally get developed into an art of appreciating art? Let's say films, for example. So it's just that in Malaysia, unfortunately, it's from parent down to child. So my oldest is into Black Sabbath.
Really?
Led Zeppelin.
Well done.
And on the flip side, Eazy-E and NWA.
Fantastic. Good
and he's
choice.
12 years old.
Fantastic, man.
I know, right?
Fantastic.
So I said to him, because he is mouthing and repeating NWA's
Yes.
Dash the Police.
Yeah.
And and I'm driving the car and he's playing it and he's rapping away to it. I'm like, you are the only 12-year-old Melayu boy I know who is down with NWA.
Wow.
So, but
That's my dream. That's my goal.
Yeah, that's
my goal.
parent to child.
Yeah.
They don't learn about music in school. He goes to music lessons to learn about music, and that's basically it. Where do you study films in school? Do you look at culturally life-changing pieces in school? They don't. When I was in school, we had cultural events like when Muhammad Ali was boxing live. The whole school would stop. The class would stop. Somebody would bring in an old black and white TV, some richer kid, Anak Tan Sri, and the school would stop, and every class would watch Muhammad Ali boxing. Yes, this is the fact. Muhammad Ali, anyone who is in their 50s or 60s or even late 40s would remember Malaysia stopped when Muhammad Ali boxed. So culturally, can you imagine a school stopping now to watch the live screening of Olympics, Paralympics, when a Malaysian wins gold or silver? It's now sport and art has been that's what you do. If you cannot do anything else, you do that. You do that afterwards.
In your own free time.
In your own free time.
Yeah.
But you must focus on A, B, C, D, E, getting 5 A's and 9 A's, which I think you've spoken to Professor Tajuddin recently about grades and stuff. Where I'm not, especially with the internet, we are left behind educationally as a nation, I think, because we're still stuck in that old. We must get 9 A's for SPM. You must then get your university degree. You must be the alma mater or whatever, and then you are somebody. But if you look at the most successful people, and by success, I'm talking about financially as well, but as well as just successful in their lives, not all were great students in school, because right now, you've got kids?
Yes.
How
2.
old?
The eldest is 2. Youngest, 3 months.
You haven't reached that stage, like what do you want to become? 85% of kids will now say YouTuber. What do you want to become when you grow up? A YouTuber. Which, as a parent, you'll be like, apa ni YouTuber. But you can't fight it because the YouTubers are out there earning millions, if not thousands, per week, per month, and so you can't fight it. Or what you can instill, or what I try to instill is, okay, you want to become a YouTuber? Do you know what it takes? It takes hard work. Mr. Beast didn't get to where he is, just like that. Even the kid who came here, the 19-year-old who runs around recently, what's his name? The frizzy hair.
Crazy guy.
Crazy guy. That guy.
I fresh. I fit or whatever.
I asked my kids because they were like, what's his name? I fit.
I fit.
Fast Fresh.
Fast Fresh.
Fresh Prince. Yeah, you all know who I'm talking about. You say old people here, we don't know that young kid.
Fresh, yeah.
He's 19 or whatever, 20. And I asked my kids, actually, where did he come from? How did he start? And they told me he started off just by playing video games and talking over it.
Yeah.
But he did it, continues to do it every single day. His life is just about shooting himself, shooting content, shooting himself. So he probably went through 3 or 4 years of 0, 500, 1,000, 2,000, 5,000 likes, followers, whatever. But just consistently, that's hard work.
That's hard work.
That is hard work.
I think Mr. Beast took 13 years, to get where he is today.
So I say, fine, YouTuber, great. Find your niche, do what you love to do, because it's going to be hard work. What's behind it is actually hard work. Hard work will never change. You can become, on TikTok, you can suddenly have 1 million views today, but all your other posts have 100. Okay, are you successful? I would say no, because that's just the current algorithm of TikTok. But those who consistently have following, views, and so-called influence, it's based down to hard work.
Yeah, definitely.
Simple as that. I don't even know what started this question.
No, but I want to now go back into stand-up comedy because I think you brought up some very interesting points, especially earlier talking about how content movies you should make it thinking about a global market, right? So I want to get to that, especially in the local comedy scene now. But before that, as you mentioned, when you started, you were alone, right? What do you think are the biggest differences between the modern style or modern generation of comedy as compared to what it was before when you were starting up and when you had people coming in, like, you had your Netos, your Kabin Jays and all that?
Well, myself and Douglas Lim came a few years later. We started without the internet. So we started old school way. The 100 people who saw you tonight, plus the 300 that saw you the next night, plus the 500 that saw you next week, that was your building of your so-called eyeballs and the impact you had on them. So similarly to groups like Wings and Search, Search was a band that played in a pub, a bar. They were just a working rock band, which is where they honed their craft and went on to become Search. They didn't become Search overnight. Similarly with, all the old school singers, the Jamal Abdillahs and all, we just worked day by day. And so if you had a fame graph, it would be going like that. So what is the difference today is that you are, number one, social media. Number two, as a stand-up comedian, you are often and more so recently, living on because what you're doing is talking and dealing with current subjects, current topics, which in Malaysia, a lot of them follow under the don't talk about this offensive rule, et cetera, et cetera. So I recognize this early on because stand-up comedy is contextual. When you go and watch a stand-up comedy show, be it in a corporate show or in a club or in a restaurant or in a bar, in a theater, it's contextual, meaning the 100, 200, 500,000 people are experiencing it. They know what they're there for. It's a stand-up comedy show. Okay, don't talk about corporate shows. Talk about if you have a stand-up comedy show somewhere where people come to see stand-up comedy, it's contextual. So you take everything within context. Now, when social media came along, or the internet, or not the internet, when social media came along, when people started posting things, and then the handphone camera came along, I quickly recognized very early on, and this is when the Crack House was open, I was like, when I say guys, I mean all stand-up comedians. I was like, guys, yeah, you say this, 100 people in the room are laughing, ha, 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 but you take that sentence out and you put it out there, and people, the netizens will immediately, apa dia cakap pasal ni? Which is exactly what happened to the Crack House when it got shut down. It's because it get taken out of context. So, for example, when we think of Malaysian Parliament, immediately you think of, Bong Mokhtar. Bak you. Because it's catchy, and then we think, Malaysian Parliament is all idiots, all talking like that. If you sit there the whole day, you'll find out there's a whole lot of other things going on. It's all contextual, and that was just taken out of context. If you understand what I mean. Not all Parliament is like. So same with stand-up comedy. So what is the big difference? Comedians now have to, they're born into it. If they start now, realize that your career is very much about the clips, the shorts the reels, the TikToks that go out there as they are about your live show. Very early on, a lot of stand-up comedians were very protective because stand-up comedy material sometimes takes weeks, months, years to develop, meaning the same inverted comma joke.
Yeah.
You're massaging it, you're tweaking it. Sometimes you nail it first time, most times you don't, and you're trying on different audiences until you find the moment. So comedians are like, I don't want to put this clip online because then people would have seen my joke. Okay, but if you and I both know that now everything is about online, which then makes it harder for stand-up comedians. So if you go to a Chris Rock show or a Dave Chappelle show or the big shows, they take away your phone. I went to Dave Chappelle in Thailand, Bangkok.
Oh, wow, really?
Yeah.
I've not seen, I'd love
just
seeing
before
live.
the pandemic. And you take away your phone, you get locked into a locker. So from the moment you walk into the hall, there's no pictures of people doing selfies in Dave Chappelle shows because you don't have your camera, or most stand-up comedy shows, because a comedian knows that after this I'm going to this city and that city and that. That's why comedy is the most difficult. When Coldplay comes to town, everyone wants to hear Yellow. When Sheila Majid performs, everyone wants to hear Sinaran. You know, Zainal Abidin performs, everybody wants to hear Hijau. They are condemned to sing the same song night after night after night for the rest of their life, and they can throw up the song. But comedian is different. Once you hear the joke, twice, yeah, got something different. So that is why it's so much more difficult to do stand-up comedy.
Definitely, yeah.
Because you got to constantly be changing, developing, moving, creating.
It's faster now, right? As in in terms of I think like back then before social media, in terms of jokes, you could take your time, but now you need to keep producing jokes.
I would say that if you're playing the social media game at the same time, which you should do, you need to be on your toes constantly.
It's like that guy Matt Rife from the US.
Matt Rife, he does it's a crowd work, right?
Yeah. But he became of course he was there for years, but he became sort of like an overnight sensation just because of his clips on TikTok, and he sold out the entire world tour.
Well, there you go.
Yeah, so that's the
Russell Peters was the first.
Yes,
Russell Peters became known. This is slightly early on in the social media game, before social media, in fact, but you had internet, where his 45-minute clip of somebody's going to get hurt was released, and everybody was sharing it. He went from zero to $1 million shows overnight.
Yeah, overnight, yeah.
Because what country doesn't have an Indian community?
Correct.
Or an Asian community where the father is whacking the shit out of the kid?
Yeah, no, I remember when I brought down this guy from India, his name is Arvind S.A. So he was telling me that South India had no stand-up scene. And then, so he does his content in English. And he said, but his friend told him, no, you keep posting videos. So he did this joke about riding an Indian train or something. I can't remember what's the joke. And that went viral. And just because of that clip, he could sell out shows across the world.
There you go.
It's crazy. I mean, it's really how social media has made things so much faster if you have the quality.
You can't deny it. It's there, but it comes with its own problems and its own issues. Because back in the day, it took me 12 to 15 years to be recognized. Whereas today, you could release a clip, walk out onto the street tomorrow, hey, you're that Fleur.
Yes.
And that's nice for a while. But after a while, it's like, why are people looking at me? Why do they keep asking me the same thing?
Yeah, yeah.
You're not used to, everyone stopping you in the street.
Correct, yeah, definitely.
So it comes with its own issues.
One thing that I've noticed, and I used to follow Malaysian stand-up comedy for a long time. I used to come to your club and all that, all the crack house and everything. One thing I've noticed about Malaysian stand-up comedy, especially the guys now, right? So I saw you, I'll just go back a bit. I saw you perform many shows, but one of it that stays in my mind is the one, I think it's the Kings and Queen of Comedy in KLC Plenary Hall. And there was one guy from Canada there, I remember. Joanne Kam was the host, and And
I remember his name.
I forgot his name, yeah. I remember she kept on going on about how good-looking he was. Yeah. And
Sugar Sammy,
yeah. And you kept on talking about, and I remember the joke that really blew me away was the CSI joke. And then, of course, there was the joke you did about, you compared Bruno Mars song with Grenade and all that. It was beautiful, man. I still remember, I was just crazy. That was one of the epic moments. Your comedy is very much like, I would look at it as it's social commentary meets a little bit of physical comedy, right? Is there? But the problem that I find with local comics nowadays is, racial comedy is a big, big part of their sets. And it's repetitive. And as an Indian, when I go to a comedy club, right, it gets tiring. Like I hear they keep using the same stereotypes, clang, everybody drinks, and all that kind of stuff. Why is racial comedy so prevalent in Malaysian comedy?
Well, number one, it's the lowest hanging fruit. From school days, you got the Malay, Chinese, Indian. So it's instantly recognizable.
Yeah,
it's instantly gettable.
Yes.
And it's so the younger comedians tend to do that. In fact, I probably did it in a certain way very early on in my career. But I always warn the comedians. Number one, I would say push themselves. You're exactly right to get past that. I have heard enough of the lazy Malay, the greedy Chinese, and the drunk Indian inverted comma jokes. Not to say they're not funny, or I'm not offended at all. It's just, but I get it. But if you've been doing this for a few years, find something else. Move on somewhere else. because also, once again, right now, there's the 3R rule. Don't touch on race, royalty, and religion.
Yeah.
And every corporate show I get, they say, don't touch the 3Rs. So I go on stage, good evening, my name is Harith Iskander. I can't talk about race, royalty, and religion. Good night, thank you very much. And I'm walk off.
Yeah. Okay.
That's the bit lah. But I say to comedians now, okay, if you be in a way smart about it. If you're going to come up with a joke which you know someone somewhere is going to find offensive, be smart about it. Number two, don't go for the jugular. Don't go for the obvious.
Meaning?
So back in the day, an easy target would have been Dati Rosma.
Okay.
So easy target, broad strokes of comedy there. But some comedians will just use it to elicit a nervous laughter, because you just have to say the word Rosma on stage and people will laugh. So they will think, oh, I got to laugh. No, you got to laugh from the stereotype. You didn't create the laugh. Similar, like, I have an Indian friend from Klang, ha, ha, ha. You haven't even got to the joke yet, but people are ahead of the group. If they're ahead of you, then actually comedy is not working. Because comedy is about you taking someone down a road, then pop, punchline comes, oh my God, I didn't think of that. They're not ahead of you.
Those are the best jokes.
Yeah, those are the best.
Best jokes, yeah.
But then occasionally you throw in once you layer that enough, then you come in one where you don't even have to finish the joke. The audience already get it because they're ahead of you, because you took them down the road, and then they go, see what you did there.
Yeah.
So why do comedians continue doing this? Number one is inexperience. Number two, we are very blessed in this country that we don't have so many comedians, because if you go to somewhere like LA, there are dozens of comedy clubs. Each comedy club on a Thursday, Friday, Saturday night, each club will have 5 shows, 6 to 7:30 show, 8 to 9:30 show, 10 to 11 show, 11:30 to midnight show, 1:30 to 4. And then the comedian will go and do 3 minutes here, get in his car, go to another club and do the 11:30 show, do 5 minutes here. So there are, I would say 1,000 comedians all vying for a spot. And some clubs won't allow you in because you haven't reached that quite level and all. So they're all, it's a dogfight, like it's hyenas all. In KL, you want to try? Are you trying to go on stage? So when foreign comedians came to the Crack House or came to the Joke Factory, they were like, oh my God, the comedians don't realize how lucky they are to be able to just waltz up, and almost be, we've got a space for you. Because there's not 20 others wanting that space. And so we get a bit complacent because, anyway I get up, I can get up and perform. And therefore, it has its two-edged sword. You get to perform a lot, which hopefully you get better. But at the same time, how far can you go? And people say, how far can you go in comedy? If you really, 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 really are interested in being at the top of the game, you got to go overseas. Because, the Ronnie Cheng thing. And the Nigel Ng thing.
So, but is it a way of saying that they are limiting themselves by sticking to this sort of hyper-localized content?
So very quickly, you'll recognize the best. The best will rise to the top.
Okay.
And after a while, if you've seen the same person and a year later he's still doing the Malay, Chinese, Indian stereotype, you're not going to pay to see him.
But I remember back in the day when I used to bring down stand-up acts, right? And I remember that I always used to see that Malaysian audiences, and please correct me if I'm wrong, because you have done your own festivals and all that, you've done tours and everything. I think, am I right to think that Malaysian audiences are very selective in their palette for jokes? Because you see, like in the US, for example, right? You have political satire, which is, you have your Jon Stewarts, your John Olivers, and then you have your philosophical, religious comedy, with like people like George Carlin and all that. Then, of course, you have your social commentators all around, like Chris Rock and Dave Chappelle and all that. Then you have improv comedy. You have all sorts of different type of stylings. In Malaysia, we are still a bit, I think improv just started. I think you used to do it actually a lot at your club last time. But Is it because the audiences that we don't have that many genres of comedy here?
Yeah, we're still in our infancy, so to speak, because stand-up comedy is not a chosen thing to go to. And you're fighting with cinemas, you're fighting with the mama, you're fighting with... In the States, people choose to go to, let's go and watch comedy. We are comedy fans. You can count on a few hands how many comedy fans there are in Malaysia. Because theatre, talk about theatre. Theatre has been in the same level for years and years and years and years.
And I watched one TDI, I think Quash Theatre, and I was just amazed by the acting, the singing is crazy.
There's a lot of talented people out there, but I can't speak for theatre, but we've not been able to put the finger on how do we market this, how do we get people to come out and bring their kids and bring their friends to go and watch comedy. It's you're right, it's a certain palette. People who go to comedy clubs have a slightly wider palette. But at the end of the day, there's, comedy is like food. I don't like durians, but I cannot go around saying durians are shit. No. People love durians. They'll travel miles, 3 hours to buy a durian. So my judgment on a durian is my judgment. So same with comedy. When you go in front of an audience, you have no idea what they find funny, because humor is a weird thing that most people don't land on the same plate when it comes to humor. And the best you can do is be true to yourself. Same with anything. Same with filmmaking, songwriting. If you want to sit down and write a hit, and I'm sure there are many hit songwriters out there, especially in the Western world, who can work out a formula, but they are very rarely the singer. It's hit writers. Comedians write their own material. So at the end of the day, you write what is authentic to you. This is what I say to anyone. As long as you're authentic, the audience will go with you. If you're a shy, not so confident nerd, show that on stage and the audience will go with you. Have you ever been to a corporate function or you listen to someone speak? Notice what you will sit and listen to, and notice what you turn off from. What you turn off from is someone reading from the why do people love Donald Trump? Because when he speaks, he doesn't feel like he's reading anything, which is why he ends up saying a lot of crazy shit. But you're engaged because he's just waffling, talking about this, and then he'll talk about that, and then he'll talk about this and talk about that. But he's engaging and he's authentic. To be honest, I kind of became a fan of Trump in the last 6 months because I realized actually what you see is what you get. He doesn't say one thing today, then 3 months later, flip on the issue. Yeah, what you see is what you want to get rid of immigrants. Oh no, that's racial. 5 years later, I want to get rid of immigrants. Okay, so the guy's not trying to win a seat back. He wants to get rid of immigrants, and he has his reasons. So, and then when you watch, unfortunately, when you watch Kamala Harris, you had a feeling she was scripted, and you kind of just mentally turn off to what she's saying because she doesn't believe what she's saying. Someone wrote it for her, and that's the same with comedy. If you are what you speak the way you are, your inner voice speaks. People will go with you. They may not find it funny. They may not like it, but they'll go with you for that moment. Because, okay, this person is. If you really are from Klang and you're Indian, then go ahead. Because you have the experience. But don't, be Indian but not from Klang and then talk about Klang gangsters. You can't talk about it as a Klang who's not from Klang. So, do you know what I mean? You've got to be authentic about it.
No, I some of the comics who I love and adore across the years, I mean, from way back when, one of them was Eddie Murphy. Eddie Murphy, to me, I think, changed the game.
Eddie Murphy started me.
Really?
He was the first and only stand-up comedian I'd watched. Delirious,
yeah.
VHS videotape.
No, but I remember, did you remember that special where he comes on leather,
that's
sexy,
Delirious.
And all the girls wanted to sleep with him? He made comedy sexy. He moved it away from the person.
He became a rock star.
The rock star, yeah.
He became a rock star.
Right? And then now when you look at it, I look at people like Chris Rock when they're on stage and the way they dress, and there is an element of an image. It's not like what it was before. I would feel before that. Of course, I'm not saying. I mean, like I grew up with Ace Ventura as well, so of course, physical comedy was one of the earliest forms, right? You have people from Charlie Chaplin, all these people. It evolved. But do you think comedians? How important is image for a comedian? Should they focus on how they look, how they are perceived on stage?
Just like anything else, just like a car. Should you focus on the speed, the design, the dashboard, or what? What do you think is your market? Where will you appeal the most? Because when it comes to looks, very early on, I went around every day in a suit.
Yes, I know about yes.
There was a period where I went around in a suit because it made me feel better about myself, and then it became part of me. But today, I wear a T-shirt every day, and I have to put on a suit if I do a corporate show. But how important is image or the look? It really depends. As long as you're authentic about it, if you know what I mean. Like
if that's you,
so I can't wear what Joe Flizzo wears with his bling his cap sideways.
Please don't.
Some people will go, oh, what's a 50-year-old guy wearing like that? But I actually get it. That's authentic to him. I couldn't carry it off, if you know what I mean. So whatever's authentic to you. So how important is your look, your image? Like anything lights, as long as it's authentic to you.
Okay.
You wanna dress how you wanna dress.
Another thing that sort of moved comedy, whether it's backwards or forwards, that's up to anyone to interpret, is online streaming platforms. People, things like Netflix and Prime, have sort of become a milestone in every comedian's journey, right? I have a special on Netflix, which you do, and congratulations. I loved it. I watched it. But again, we talked about Delirious and all that, right? Back then, specials were something like a movie. It was like Star Wars Phantom Menace. It came after years, and it was this thing that tore space and time, right? Now, I'm not saying that the special is not good, but do you think that nowadays the thirst to put on specials on these platforms sort of impacts the quality?
Yes, 100%.
Okay.
It's completely watered down. I'm a comedy fan, and especially Netflix, that was the only place to get stand-up comedy specials. And it was, by and large, great comedy specials. But Netflix is a platform. What do platforms need? They need content. So now on Netflix, you will have Kampung Ku Pisang Hantu with some Korean equivalent and some, because they just need content. So they became known, before HBO, they were known as a comedy special. But if you look at half, and I look at most, if not all of them, I would say 60 to 70% of comedy specials that now appear on Netflix, I can't sit through 5 to 7 minutes.
Me too.
Not because I'm being judgmental, because I realize, they're just a content platform. They need content. And I wouldn't say I know for a fact, I'm pretty sure whoever shot this special, whatever comedian shot this special, literally just gave it to Netflix for RM1.15 so that they can go on their profile as seen on Netflix.
Yes.
Which is impressive. It's impressive. But when you go and see I'm like, and I'm not talking just about the local ones. I'm talking about when I say local Malaysian, foreign ones as well. Like, there's a lot of crap out there. But that's the nature of platforms. There's a lot of crap on TikTok. But that doesn't mean TikTok's no good. It's just that's the platform, and we need content, and therefore we live off the content. Except Netflix you have to pay for. So the only thing that they actually demand is actually quality of production, i.e. 4K, 560 PSI, sound, blah, 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 blah. So when Netflix first came to Asia, they actually came to Malaysia. And then they somehow found me, contacted me, and they wanted to do 3 Netflix specials.
Wow.
Yes. So they chose me, and then Fakafaz from Singapore.
Yeah.
And they were looking for a second one, and I think they were going for a gentleman called Jen Han, and for some reason he didn't step up or step in, and then they chose Kevin J. So those 3, my one was shot first. Kevin J and Fakafaz was shot in the same hall on the same day in Singapore.
Oh,
Different background.
okay. Oh, really?
A little bit disadvantaged for Kevin J because he was performing in front of a Fakafaz audience. But it's shot on the same day,
same day.
To save costs. But so they were the three that Netflix themselves chose.
Okay.
So we want you to launch Southeast Asia's Netflix special. So I was the first Southeast Asian. Before me, the first Asian was Veer Das.
Yes, from India.
So I consider myself the first Southeast Asian with a Netflix special chosen by Netflix. Subsequent to that, I believe that the comedians have shot, paid for, created their own comedy special, and then farmed it to either HBO you want, Prime you want, Netflix you want.
Which is
and
a
Netflix will
common
take.
thing now.
Which is what you do now.
Yeah.
Which is what you do now. But Netflix did that with the three of us to launch the Asian comedy special beginning of.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, one thing that is creeping into modern culture, as well as unfortunately stand-up comedy, is cancel culture and wokeness. Now,
Okay.
we saw. How long do we have? So I think Dave Chappelle was hit with a lot of controversy because of transgender jokes. Although I thought that special, I think it was called The Closure. I thought it was, the jokes were just epic. The ending where he tells that story about his trans woman who's a fan and who commits suicide. Oh man, that guy is a genius. But now, he faced kickback because he made jokes about transgender community. He even made jokes about people in wheelchairs and all that, which was funny. And people actually like, but of course, there was comedy against him. Closer to home, we have one infamous case of Jocelyn Chia, which you yourself commented on your TikTok, where she made fun of MH370 and she made jokes about it.
Okay, there's a difference between Jocelyn Chia and Dave Chappelle. I'll get into that.
Yeah. Do you think that should there be lines drawn in the sand when it comes to comedy?
What can you make jokes about?
Yes.
What can't you make jokes about?
Do you think it should be that?
Okay, so when the Jocelyn Chia thing exploded, I happened to be in France. BBC actually contacted me because I did a commentary video, and they asked me the same question. The issue I had with the Jocelyn Chia was not of the content. It just wasn't funny. I could, as a comedian, I could see what she was doing. She wasn't getting the laughs, and so she went for the lowest hanging fruit, the jugular. Where are you from? Malaysia. Oh, MH370. Ha ha ha. So she was just eliciting what I would call gasp laughter. Oh, I can't believe she said that.
Yeah.
Ooh, that's the equivalent of saying Rosma. Ooh. There's no joke behind it, and it wasn't funny. And I could see her intention, and she got intrinsically a bit mean to me, like not funny. I wouldn't wrong her for it. She's just doing what she does. As opposed to, okay, why do people cancel? Because you've offended, right? Back to your question, is there anything you can't joke about? My answer to you and to the BBC was no. There is no topic you can't make stand-up comedy about. I'll use the word joke. You can't make a joke about. Why? Oh, people will go, cancer, cerebral palsy. I might not do a joke about cancer or cerebral palsy because I don't have any authentic experience of it. But I have seen a comedian with cerebral palsy make complete fun of himself and his cerebral palsy condition, which was hilarious. So can you make jokes about cerebral palsy? No, I can't. He can. So is it the topic? It's not the topic. Let's go to MH370. I bet, I almost 100% guarantee, within the community of families who have been dealing with this the tragedy in their lives for the last, how many years have they been missing? 15, 20
Long
years?
time, yeah.
They have developed and come up with self-depreciating lines and jokes about the tragedy. Why? Because that's what comedy does. Comedy helps you deal with uncomfortable topics because you need to talk about it, you need to release it. All comedy is based in darkness. The best comedy, all good comedy is based in darkness. And what I mean by darkness is based in pain. Let me give you an example.
The crying clown, basically.
What is the classic physical comedy? Charlie Chaplin walking along, banana peel, slip, shoo, bam, ha ha ha. In reality, let's take a reality version. Someone has just slipped on a banana and potentially broken their back. It's pain.
Like Three Stooges and all that.
Yeah,
it was,
but we laugh at it. Why?
Yeah.
The comedy, the laughter helps you deal with what is a painful situation. If you look at any of the best stand-up comedians, it's all about pain. I talk about my late father and my late mother all the time. In reality, didn't have a great relationship with my father, but I turned it into comedy. Me and my father had a typical Malaysian father and son relationship. We didn't talk very much. Ha ha ha. In reality, potentially a painful and dark topic. You did not connect with your father, but it's stand-up comedy. I didn't understand what my father was talking about. He'd come home. In reality, potentially painful, but that's what the best stand-up comedy is. So, can you joke about MH370? Someone is amongst themselves. Not me, because I've not found the reason to or the authenticity to do it. Unless, and I did, I had an older brother. But older, 3 years older than me. He passed away. He was a lifelong drug addict, heroin, ice, lifelong, meaning from 18 onwards, and he died when he was 60. All his friends were cycling and jogging, never drank, never smoked, all died before him. He went, and so, wow, he was onto something. Heroin's the way to go. You see? Ha ha ha. I once got on stage a few months after my brother died, and inadvertently I went into this, not planned, but I went into 30 minutes of talking about my dead heroin-addicted brother. And people laughed, then they stopped, shocked, then laughed, shocked, stop, shocked. And people came up to me, a couple of people came up to me after the show and were like, hey, that was good. And then leaned in and said, actually, my cousin is the same. Thank you for, because they were like, oh my God, I'm not the only one going through this guy on stage talking about it. I thought, because in most families, it's a well-kept secret, not talked about. And at Hari Raya or Deepavali, when that brother or sister shows up, you try and avoid them because every Malaysian family has one gay member and one drug addict. And the gay family member is fantastic to hang about with at Deepavali, and you chill out with them. And then the drug addict one shows up, and you're like, okay, don't look. He's going to borrow money. See, once again, we're talking about pain.
Yeah.
But why do I tell it in that way? Because that's how you deal with it. So
laughter is a powerful way.
Laughter is the most amazing medicine. And I say this at almost all my shows. At the end of the show, if everyone's been laughing, I'm like, regardless of your race, religion, culture, belief, at this moment, you all kind of laughed at the same thing, which means, actually, we are like the same. Actually, we're the same. You connected on the same. You go out there and you're anti this and you're anti that and you're not this, and I'm gonna go to follow you on Facebook. But at least you recognize, oh shit, we can connect on something.
Yeah.
And that's music, sports, laughter is a great connecting factor.
You bring back so many good memories. I remember Bernie Mac did one skit about a bit about his sister who is a drug addict and how it just in that Kings of Comedy.
Yeah.
Oh, that was
one of my favorites.
Yeah, Bernie Mac is. I mean, I love him. He's another guy so unique. And then Dave Chappelle does it very well in his previous stand-up where he talks about. I think for what it's worth, I think it's a special where he compares. I don't know how he does it, but it's just beautiful. He takes R. Kelly's incident then when he allegedly peed over a girl. And then basically the entire question is, how old is 15?
Yes.
I mean, I was watching, I was like, man, you go through a journey with a joke. Like what you said, you laugh and then you like think. And then at the end, you're like, oh man, I didn't see it that way. It's just the best. I think it's the best. But about your MSC70 thing, I hosted this comic. I won't say his name. And same thing happened. He had a joke on MSC70. And I said, bro, please don't tell the joke, and this was very fresh when it just happened. And he made the joke. He made the joke, but he connected it with his joke was about how his mother can find anything. When you ask her, "Ma, where's my socks?" and "Ma, where's my thing?" And so so the punchline. I'm probably killing the joke now, but the punchline is basically, my mother can find it, and people laughed because it was okay. At that point, the issue was they can't find the plane, right? But I felt. Yeah, so that part, I agree with you. I think the joke was not funny, and I think what I had issue with was after that, the responses that she continued making about it, the videos that she made about it, the interviews that she did, continuously mocking. I thought that was the low point as well.
Who? You're talking about Justin?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. In her case, the less said the better.
Yeah.
But people often confuse the topic of the joke as the target, the sasaran. So when I talk about my drug addict brother and you laugh, it's not, drugs is not the joking point. What I'm actually, the target is actually a relationship between what I had with him, because I only told you one bit, but if you listen to the whole thing, I talk about how without him, I might have become a drug addict, because he used to do heroin. He used to shoot up heroin in front of me in his room, and after doing it, warn me, you do this, I'll kill you. Which is, people also elicit a laugh. He's killing himself, but warning me, if you do this, I'll kill you first. The heroin won't kill you, I'll kill you first. So that sets up, I'm actually dealing with a relationship here. It's not the drug. So, sir, MH370, the topic is MH370, but what the target is actually your irritation with your mother, who thinks, and she does indeed, find everything. Do you see what I mean? So it's once again, not say it's not a target. It's like you're actually talking about the all-knowing mother, which every family knows one or has one.
Yeah.
The mother who knows best. And then, but you think you're talking about MH370. So Ricky Gervais speaks about this all the time, where you're confusing. Oh, you can't make a joke about MH370. Yeah, you're not. That's the topic. That may not be the target.
Yeah.
So when I make my CSI, by the way, I got called in by the police for that joke.
Really?
Yeah. Earlier on, I mentioned I want to talk about that, just to remind you. But
Why?
So a few months ago, maybe half a year ago, I get a call from IPD Shah Alam. Encik Harith, boleh datang IPD buat beri keterangan. So when a police report is made and they're investigating, you have to go in and beri keterangan, which basically means give your side of the story. So I said, ni pasal apa? And they said, ni pasal stand-up comedy ni. So I thought they were referring back to the crack house thing again. Sketsa apa ni? Oh, ni sketsa apa? CSI ni. CSI. So a report was made because the CSI joke is an old joke. I did it most famously at Istana Budaya, which was then recorded, put on Astro Warna or Astro Undergo, and it existed in that time period of 15 years ago, 10 years ago. I re-uploaded it on TikTok because there's a new audience who probably never seen it.
Yeah,
So I reloaded it. So a report was made against the TikTok video of the CSI joke, and I was required to go to IPD Shah Alam to beri keterangan. So I rock up there. I don't know whether, have you ever been called in for investigation?
Once, a long time ago.
A long time ago. We'll talk about that. Why did you do, huh? But what I did was I went back and watched the video again. I was like, okay, just preparing myself. So if you've ever been called in, they've got a set of questions. And they start off with the most innocuous name, address, blah, blah, blah. Nama anak, umur anak. And in my head, like,
They sort of play good cop, bad cop.
what's this got to do with my... maybe they're trying to identify that this is indeed the correct person referred to in the video. And then, where was the joke where was the joke performed, and I had to explain Istana Budaya, live, and then subsequently shot and put onto Astro, subsequently shared all over YouTube, and now on TikTok. So in my head, I'm like, are you now going to go after Istana Budaya for allowing the joke? Are you going to go after Astro for screening the joke? Because I was called in for uploading the joke. And then, if you watch the joke, I compared CSI Malaysia, and you can go and click on it and give somebody else some money because whoever uploaded it has 13 million views. CSI Malaysia, CSI Miami, New York, the TV show, against CSI Malaysia. And then inspectors typing away. And the question was in Malay, was it your intention, adakah niat anda untuk to make fun of PDRM, police? And I said, Puan, saya tak sebut pasal PDRM. Saya membandingkan CSI Miami dengan CSI Malaysia. Dekat Malaysia, CSI Malaysia tak wujud. There's no such thing. And she was like, betul juga. So, technicality, but at the end of the day, here's the funniest story. I asked my lawyer friend, so what happens after a report is made? Well, police report is made, they take keterangan, then they either put it into a file of no further action, NFA, or it goes up. I said, for what reason would it go up? He said, a few reasons, depend who made the report, might decide, hey, no, this one I want to explore further. Sure enough, a few weeks later, I get a call from the inspector asking me for the contact numbers of the show producer and Astro. But of course, I'm like, I just was in the show. I didn't produce it, neither did I sell it to Astro. So I have no information there. But in my head, like, are you really going to go after Astro and for what? But anyway, cut a long story short. Few months later, I get contacted by Special Branch.
Wow.
Who want me to do a show. The FBI, America, trains the special branches in Asia, in Malaysia, Philippines, Indonesia. So our special branch is trained, receives training from FBI as well. Because, they're probably the best in the world, next to Mossad. But they, normal training sessions. And they've been doing this for a while. So this was a dinner that was hosted by Special Branch Malaysia with delegates from Indonesia, Singapore, including America, FBI, Philippines.
Did you do that too?
I said, okay, I'll do the show. Then came a special request. Our boss minta you buat joke CSI ni. And then I thought to myself, oh, they want to catch me live on stage doing it so they can nab me there and then.
Take him out, take him out.
Okay, he's about to go into lines. He couldn't mention it. Go. They'll be abseiling down. Like wrestling me to the ground. You have the right to remain silent and things like everybody. Then I was like, betul ke? And he's like, oh, boy, kita suka je tu. And sure enough, I did the joke in front of Special Branch, FBI, Singapore, Malaysia, Philippines, Indonesia. FBI, America, they were cracking up. Special branches are cracking up the most. Because at the end of the day, good comedy is based in authentic truth. Yeah. They're standing there sitting, betul juga, betul juga. Betul juga. Because comedy, which is why it's great, it helps you deal with a topic. You want to talk about sampah. You put how many dada membahayakan RM5,000 or sampah. Where do Malaysians throw rubbish? Underneath the don't throw rubbish here sign. I've had those, you've seen the signs in school days. Yeah. It has not stopped Malaysians mengambil dada or throwing rubbish. Denda merokok dekat petrol station.
See the most people there.
What do people do? They'll step 10 steps away and merokok there. Now, this has to do with okay, on the surface of it, it's self-realization, civil liberties, blah, blah, blah. But signs and instructions don't do anything. But if I make a joke about where's the best place to throw rubbish, under the don't throw rubbish sign, people laugh. because you kind of go, "No, betul juga, betul juga." But at one point, now you can laugh about it. You can laugh about it, and now let's have a conversation about it. Why do we continue to litter? What is it in our mentality? One of my normal jokes is, what do Singaporeans do to feel more Malaysian? They cross the border, roll down the window, throw rubbish out the window. Now they're legit Malaysians, because in Singapore, you cannot throw rubbish. And so they continue. They start to act like Malaysians lah. Put the yellow petrol, speed, pay off the cop. I'm Malaysian. They all go undercover as Malaysians. Oh, you're making fun of Malaysian. No, so the target is not, the cops or the Singapore. The target is how we act. That's what we should be talking about. The joke is not about MH370. We're not making fun of MH370. Here's what we should be talking about. Here's how we should look at ourselves. Here's how we should go, what can we do? So that's my, actually, if you talk about what's my future plans, is to be able to use humor to number one, you have to start having a conversation. You need to start having a dialogue. And then when you can all laugh about it, all right, let's get down to brass tacks. Let's start, how do we actually...
Let's have a real conversation.
That's a real conversation.
Yeah. In the current landscape of Malaysia, with our current political climate, the current things that are happening, especially online censorship, we're talking about new laws going to be implemented soon. In fact, there's somebody from the Ministry of Communications who's coming on the podcast soon to talk about that even. Do you think this environment we are living in now is conducive enough for the growth of comedy in Malaysia? And sorry, but I ask this because if you look like in the US, for example, if you look at political, you look at all these campaigns like Trump and versus Kamala Harris and all that, comedians played a role in it. If you look at TikTok and how they mocked and they made fun, it was entertaining to watch. And you're right, it's a lot of it is based off of what you feel when you watch those videos, right? But in Malaysia, it's the opposite. Comedians don't really play a big role in politics or commenting. Do you think it's because of our climate?
Well, no, I think if you watch some of my earlier clips during the pandemic, and especially Douglas Slim, who often pokes fun.
Yeah, he does.
And there's a Malay sketch artist. Okay, so I forget his name. I got another call from IPD once to come in and not beri keterangan. They were investigating a video which had been reported against, and they were calling me in as an expert witness on comedy.
Okay.
So it was a Bahasa Malaysia. I wouldn't say he's a comedian. He's a YouTuber, and he does funny sketches, and he works alone. And he was doing a sketch. So they sent me the video, and then they wanted me to come in and give my expert opinion, because what I understand is, like, if the case goes to court, you need to call in an expert eyewitness, an expert opinion about the topic to decide whether it is defamation or not funny or blah, blah, blah. So I watched the sketch. Frankly speaking, I found it quite funny. I found it clever. But it was touching on current topics to do with politicians, and specifically, do you remember when this lawyer, what was seen as an urban lawyer, went in and questioned Kelantan's Sharia laws and was demanding that it fall in line with Malaysian laws?
Yeah.
And so everyone got up in arms, especially the Malays.
That was something I know. Yeah.
Because, how can you touch Kelantan? When you actually study it, the Kelantan laws were weaker than the federal law. I'm going to get this wrong, but something along the lines said, like in Kelantan, if you were caught with X amount of whatever drugs, is 5 years or 2 sabat. Federal law was 15 years and 16 sabat, something like that. So what she was basically saying is, it needs to get in line, not touching the Sharia part, but the other laws need to get in line with federal laws.
Yeah.
Because it'll be like in America, where you now can escape a certain crime by traveling to a different state which has a different law.
Yeah.
So anyway, but the parties at B jumped on it because it made it look like some urban lawyer was messing around, and what does she know about Sharia law? So within this sketch, you have those pay when you have a discount and you want to pay your fine and the police are giving away 60% discount. So you go to the counter, right? So this guy was in a counter and he's by himself and he has the voiceover. He's like a pay for your sins discount. Bang, saya nak bayar. Kenapa? Saya hari tu saya mabuk. Mabuk habis. Lepas tu saya balik. Ada accident tak? Tak ada. Okay apa? Okay, tak ada accident. So he was playing up the urban, it's okay to drink as long as you don't get caught. So tak apa, tak bayar. Asalkan tak. So there was a lot of, sensitivities about, is he encouraging? He was parodying what he thought to be the urban view of infringing on so-called Sharia laws.
I think I saw this guy.
Yes. Yeah. Now, number one, all the questions came through, and then I found out it's actually the police officer who writes the questions. They don't have a set textbook. So he was creating questions like, is this sketch, would it be detrimental to society? Is it offensive? And I was like, offensive to Malaysians. And I was like, abang, saya seorang Malaysian. Saya bukan Malaysians. So I cannot answer that question. Is it offensive to Malaysians? Depends who you speak to. To whom? So things like this. Is it funny? Was one of the questions. Adakah memang ini intention untuk membuat orang gelak ketawa atau? And I was like, okay, kalau tanya saya dapatkan bahawa ada beberapa idea di dalam sketsa ni yang kelakar. Some, I said the only thing I take offense to, which is not offensive to others, is it was not based in reality. He took some very broad strokes about interpretations of what this lady said, the lawyer said. I said, that's the only problem I have with it. That doesn't make it less funny, but I'm like, nah, that's not true. That's not really true. She didn't say that, but I can see your point. I can see why you are pulling that string to get people to laugh. But not to say it's not funny. So I said, and we sat there for like 2 or 3 hours, and you know what the best part was? Very rare, a Chinese officer walked in the next desk, was overhearing, and then wheeled his chair over and started. This Chinese officer knew, like he's one of those nerds who like, dalam Akta 1-6-2A berbeza daripada 2B. Sebab dalam 2B, and pulled out the book and all that, and like he got really deep down into it. And I was like, number one, to see a Chinese officer in a predominantly Malay. I was like, and number two, this bugger knew what he was talking about. Because one of the issues was about dealing with rape. And I think on the verge of age and what is considered rape and at what age. And because, as you know, in states like Kelantan, there's a loose interpretation of that. But as it turns out, the federal law for rape was stronger than the Sharia law.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah. I think it was Siti Kasim, the lawyer.
Not Siti Kasim, it's another lawyer.
Okay.
But this young Chinese officer actually knew down and could pull out the book and like whip to the page because he knew the Akta /B kandungan C, pop. And I was like, dude, this guy knows his shit, man. He's like, he has it there. Like, but so anyway, taking apart from the story was, for me, it's like, I can be, you may consider myself an expert witness, but I have to be very clear that I find boy bands offensive. Are boy bands offensive? Not to the majority of girls out there. I personally find them offensive. Are they offensive? No, I personally find them offensive. But I'm not going to go out and jangan ada boy band dengan rambut yang sama dan look at Korean boy bands. 20 of them. In this band, you can change and you never know who left, who came in. You can shoot 6 of them. They can die. You can put another 6 and you wouldn't realize anyone died.
There goes this video. You get flagged.
There you go. You can shoot with camera.
Camera. Yeah.
Please.
Sorry.
Timing.
Now, I want to end on this because I'm a big comedy fan, and like as I said, I look at comedy as like I think this was late Bill Hicks said this. He said that comedy is the bastion of the last bastion of free speech. as a person who loves politics and I'm a bit left in my thinking, I think comedy is the way to. Is so powerful because number one, it breaks walls. It changes thinking. Like if you tell a good joke, you word it correctly, and you take the listener on a journey, you can change their perceptions, right? I oftentimes find like when I'm during pandemic, I think Douglas Lim was also asked to go in and give a statement because he made a certain video and all that kind of stuff. And as you said, you have been called in several times as well. Is comedy that dangerous to the establishment that it needs to be curtailed in the way that it is in Malaysia? Or is it just that our authorities just lack a sense of humor?
No. So this is not new. Back in the day, Amy Search was called into RTM where the Minister of Communication, Muhammad Rahmat, cut their hair on live TV. So because
what? You're joking?
No.
It wasn't a bit.
You can Google. No. Because having long hair meant that songs could not be played on radio. So if you were not played on radio back in the late 80s, 90s, you had no airplay. Your records would not sell. So they succumbed to having the. You can Google it. I think it was. Did it also involve Wings? Are we? I'm not sure. But Amy Search and the band had their hair cut by the information minister at that time, communications minister, Muhammad Rahmat, so it was a big show like, we're the boss, and now you can play your songs on radio, and now you can make money. Yeah. So talk about curtailing. All this is not new. It's been already practiced since the time of communications, any communication ministry, and it continues to exist today. It's just the platform has changed. Now we're into multimedia. You're still stuck on that, aren't you? Yeah.
No, it's such a
I know. Crazy, right? Live TV, and in those days, there was only 3 TV stations, RTM 1, 2, and 3. So this was a moment that was seen by 2/3 of the country.
Wow.
You know, you do it now and you're caught in a silo of who sees what, but 2/3 of the country saw this. But it was, something that had to be done because they are musicians, and if they want to sell their records, the song has to play on radio, and the song has to play on the radio, they have to cut their hair.
Goodness.
There you go.
So you're saying this is something.
So now we're okay. Now rock is rock, bro.
Yeah. I've seen him. His hair is longer than ever. Now, I want to ask one more thing. You're the godfather of stand-up comedy. You're the man who started it all. Today, who are some of the comedians that you think we should be keeping an eye on? The ones who are going to
Malaysians.
I
always jump to my current favorite, Mat Sabah.
I love him, man. I love him.
So you don't have to say anything.
I love him. Yeah.
Mat Sabah, to me, I just love his story. The fact that he's originally from Kuna, which is a small town 4 hours away from Kota Kinabalu, 6 weeks to walk, as he says. The fact that he's come from there and he's now performing and doing his own shows all over KL, all over Malaysia, and just building a name for himself. But what I love most about him, because he used to perform at the Joke Factory all the time, is he's Malay, he jokes predominantly Malay, but when it comes to the Joke Factory, he then started doing it in English. Authentically, not a language he's proficient at, but with no trying to hide. He just recognizes when he gets it wrong, brings it up, asks the audience, did I say that correctly? And I've seen him do a show where it's predominantly a Malaysian audience, but there'll be a small group of Mat Salis that happen to walk into the Joke Factory. And he'll declare to them, I plan to do my show in Malay, but don't worry, occasionally I will interpret. And they're like, hey. And then he'll do that, and in English it's like this, and they laugh, because it's like, and then he'll suddenly veer to help you, I'll do this whole thing in English. But it's like, that's just so authentic. That's just, he's not trying to pander to anyone. It's just, betul tak? Betul tak cakap? Betul. Is what? Apa? And he'll get the right word from the audience. That word. That kind of thing. Yeah. So, and the stories he tells from his point of view is something we all love, because that is, number one, we didn't even know about it. he grew up with electricity 3 days out of the week kind of thing, or turned off from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. And this we're talking, he said, to this day. And as a West Malaysian, you're like, huh? But to this day, there are areas, occasionally you'll see the video of the school children in Sabah having to cross some dangerous bridge with river water. And you're like, ha ha ha, no. This is 2024. And these kids are putting their life in danger. Ha 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 ha, comedy. But, okay, hold on a second. How come? What is going on that you have to walk across a heavy flowing river to go to school? And you're walking an hour and a half.
No, I agree with you. Matsaba, he's a different... He has his own style. I like how when he goes on stage, he's very... It looks like he's not trying.
Yeah.
It's just natural. Yeah, it's beautiful.
And the fact that he came from zero.
Yeah.
That's what I love most about him.
Yeah. Lovely. Thank you so much, Harith, for being on.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, it was really fun talking to you. And
it's all comedy. Wow. Cool. Call me back for more politics next time.
next time. Yeah. But this was fun. I love talking about comedy, and I wanted to do something different because I love comedy. Cool. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. So that's all we have for you all today, folks. As always, it was fun. Please share your thoughts. We would like to hear what you have to say to what Mr. Harith has shared. And as always, please like, share, subscribe. Stay tuned. Next up, we have many great interviews coming up. One in particular is the Teo Beng Hawk Association is coming on the podcast. So stay tuned for that. Take care. Bye.